Hello, everyone. This is Mike Cerrito, and
Tina Shiver.
with Transcending to Your Best Life. In this podcast, we're going to cover how to create your best life from a nutritional, health, and psychological perspective. I'm Mike Cerrito again, as I mentioned before, and I'm with a Talented Mind Clinic, and I'm a cognitive rehabilitation therapist and sports and performing arts psychology counselor. And Tina, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Tina Shiver, and my company's called Lighten Up. I'm a registered dietitian and certified in functional medicine. And then we have a third person that is not with us today, but will be here in the future with other topics. Her name is Dr. Catherine Deck, and her company is called Sports Navigator. She is a sports medicine physician.
And you'll be definitely hearing from her. She has wonderful insights about uh, how to create a more balanced and fruitful life when you're in pursuit of important things in your life. But today, in this episode, we're going to cover what it means to feel balanced in your life. You know, Tina, we a lot of people talk about how it feels to be out of balance.
Right.
If you really listen to a lot of the conversations we have with each other, a lot of them have to do with ways in which we're out of balance or we don't feel connected to other people, the world around us. What do you notice in the people you work with?
Oh, everybody is really focused in on more of the out of balance piece. Like you're saying, they don't give themselves credit for sometimes being in balance.
Right.
Right. And so it's nice to talk about it today and to look at, what keeps people in balance? What are the ways that what do they look at?
You know what's interesting is patients will come and they'll present an issue and then they believe that they are that issue. And the way they define themselves, the way they personalize the issue that they're struggling with is almost always negative,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay, which is why they come. However, they personalize those issues. And what I often have to do is remind them of look at these other areas in your life that you've created over time, you've been persistent with, and are very fruitful in your life that are anchors for you, that you're not that thing, that negative thing you're wrestling with that is causing you pain. And do you see the same thing?
I see it all the time, and that people will hone in on certain diets, for example. They'll read about it or they'll Google about it and they'll start following it. And all of a sudden, they'll get into that negative space of, I can never lose weight. I can never lower my cholesterol. I can't do anything. When, they're able to actually look at a plan, a healthy, balanced plan, and follow it in some way or another.
So the fact that they can follow it is often that they have followed it in the past is often forgotten.
It's forgotten and they go right back into that negativity of, I can't do this, can't lose the weight. It's only coming off by a pound or two. Or I can't eat anything with cholesterol or saturated fat, or my cholesterol is going to go up. Where they're not looking at the balance, it's all or nothing.
All or nothing, right?
Mhm.
All or nothing about diet and nutrition, all or nothing about perceptions of themselves.
Yes. Yes. So what do you see in your practice? Like,
Well, the people that tend to live a more balanced life, um, they they stay in what's called an optimal zone, pretty much, which is a zone in which they have really good self-awareness, either awareness of how they're feeling in the moment or awareness about the world around them. And then they also have very good self-care. Both of those things n- need to work in unison. But here's the thing around balance is Very often, our imagination takes over around our perception of the world and ourselves. We have these amazing imaginations that have created wonders of the world. And so what we'll do is we'll often view the world um, not as it actually exists, but as we may fear it to exist or we want it to exist. And so, in many cases, for people, a part of what you're perceiving throughout the day is not actual reality. It's how you're making those situations, those interactions real in your own mind based on your history. So the people who tend to be able to accept reality, accept what's going on around them, and accept who they are without a lot of guilt and shame, and have the ability, which is the self care, to keep from the stress from getting too high or too low. They stay in an optimal zone throughout the day because stress ebbs and flows throughout the day.
Mhm.
And one of the things they're able to do, no matter how it ebbs and flows, is they're able to stay engaged, they're able to relax, stay calm. But here's the fourth: they're able to feel safe and supported. See, this is the one thing that I notice with clients is this sense of lack of safety or supported from other people.
Mhm.
And it because our survival and our evolution was based on community and finding safety and contributing to community. Um, we rely on it so much, and it is one of the greatest ways we stay in balance by having around us people who are healthy and in balance themselves. What do you notice with your patients around the support they have around them, how it influences their nutrition, their diet?
I mean, especially if you think, I'm thinking about teenagers, right? If they have a supportive family, if the family isn't on different diets that confuse the actual teenager, if they eat healthy and balanced, then it's passed on to their kids and then they pass it on to their kids. So I noticed that. I noticed that with the older generation, that from like 50 and up, that we tend to be a little bit more balanced and that we've learned a lot about the fact that if we go down that path of following this fad diet, then it's going to take us to a not a great place. But if we stay within keeping our blood sugar level, for example, by eating healthy breakfast, a healthy lunch, and a healthy dinner that has all the macronutrients in it, the protein, the carbohydrate, and the fat, then we feel better, and it's worth us to continue to pursue that instead of getting off track with paleo or keto or some of the other fads that are out there.
So, being able to live a healthy life and a balanced life psychologically and nutritionally, I guess it does take a community, doesn't it?
It
It
does.
both are very extremely social
Mhm,
constructs,
mhm.
and especially food.
Yes. Yes, for sure. I mean, and we are social human beings, and we do love to celebrate with food,
Right, we
right?
really do.
I
Right,
mean, it's just part of us, and so how can you do that and still continue to lead a balanced life? It's important. We've gotten away, I think, for a lot of us in going by fast food and grabbing food really quick, right? And so that creates really not such good habits for future and especially for kids because they're not getting their needs met nutritionally. Um, and it takes away from them sitting down at the table together
right.
and having right communication and finding out what was the day like today and what did you learn or the conversations. Do you see that a lot in your practice as well?
Oh, yeah. I think that right now families feel experience some imbalance
Mhm.
because they're having conversations mostly around execution. Did How is school? How are you doing in school? Did you do your homework? Are you going to do your homework? What is this grade? Um, why are you friends with that person? Right? I don't really like that person. Are you sure they're good friends? Um, how are you doing in sports? Uh, let's watch film together. No, I don't want to watch film. No, you have to watch film tonight. And so the mom or dad will watch film with them, or they'll go out in the backyard right after they went to school and practice, and they will uh, work out with them. In other words, it's so much of the conversation is around keeping up and executing, and um, the only exit for the kid is really video games or or going out with friends, which they do need that separation, but families are less around telling stories and how it felt going through the day and more around execution, which can limit the social feeling of socially supported.
And also, now that you're saying that, it takes them away from it's interesting because it also takes them away from learning about what foods work for them and what foods do not, or when you're hungry and when you're not.
Oh,
Those
how
those
so?
cues, right? I mean, if they're always constantly so think about so if they skip breakfast and then they eat whatever at school and then they go buy fast food at dinner, or they're sports oriented. So
Oh, right.
because of that, they're going by, let's say they're playing until, or they're swimming until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, then they're going to grab fast food or they're going to eat later. They're going to be starving, right? Which takes them again out of balance. And they're also not going to be able to communicate as well. It takes that part away from them as well.
So the people that tend to stay more imbalanced or families that are more imbalanced, they manage the nutrition throughout the day.
Yes.
It's just not we're going to fit it in to the activities of the day, but we're going to make it a priority.
What I found, and we'll talk, we can talk a little bit about athletes, is that there that the athlete comes into my office, the student, and the parent comes with them, and the parent is very engaged, not in a honing in on let me take control way, but you're taking control. They give them that control, so they're just helping them. They're supporting them as far as grocery shopping.
Right.
They're saying, okay, what do they need for their best performance? Whether it be dance, whether it be running, swimming, or whether it be day to day life. And so you've got that parent support, right? Which also allows them to become more educated, the child, the kid, and the parent. They'll look at me and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know they needed that many carbohydrates, or I didn't know they needed that much protein or that many calories. Are you sure they need that many calories? Yes, they need that many
Right.
calories,
Right.
right?" So that helps their brain and it helps their mood, right?
And without that support, they would be out of balance, most
Exactly.
likely.
Yes. Yeah.
So one other important psychological aspect of being in balance is the ones that typically can stay balanced in their life um, soothe parts of themselves. And what I mean by that is when we go through life, we are creating memories and patterns of events in our life that we feel guilt or shame or not good enough, or we experience a trauma. So let's say if I experience a trauma at 12 or a series of really negative situations, um, I'm going to lodge that memory or that pattern in my head based on a 12-year-old's interpretation and
Interesting.
experience. So as I get older, when I see that same pattern now at 40, I'm that 12-year-old part of me is talking to me because it's trying to help me stay away, danger, this is terrible. But that's a 12-year-old talking. As a 40-year-old, I got this. And the people that tend to be more in balance can distinguish between the old parts of themselves that felt vulnerable and understand that as a 40-year-old or a 30-year-old, they can handle this differently. They're not that 12-year-old anymore.
Mhm.
That often takes a fair amount of work therapeutically to get there. But some people tend to be able to notice that and or naturally and have the confidence in themselves to not listen completely to that 12-year-old and try things differently as a 30 or 40-year-old.
Mhm.
And that helps them not run away from events or feel significant anxiety, but really engage with those events where they feel control and mastery over them. So, and what do you notice the people that are really imbalanced nutritionally, what did they experience?
From a from a young age to as they grow older or
No, just in general.
in general? So say that again?
Oh, how when people are imbalanced nutritionally,
Right.
what does that mean?
So it means giving yourself a break. And what I mean by that is that, that whatever your choices are based on eating, that you're fueling your body, you're feeling at your best, you have energy, you're hydrated, you're keeping your blood sugar level throughout the day. So you're eating enough protein in order to fuel yourself and fuel your muscles. You're eating enough carbs to have the energy, and you're eating enough fat. Um, it's feeling at your optimal throughout. It's feeling at your best throughout the day. So that means again getting enough calories and enough energy, right?
So, what role does blood sugar play?
So blood sugar is, it goes way back, right? It's what drives our moods up and down throughout the day. So if you eat something in the morning, let's say you had cereal and milk, which is mostly carbohydrate, then your blood sugar more than likely will go up and eventually it will come down. And for some people, it'll go down a little bit more than it should and could create a little bit of hypoglycemia. Okay. The goal is to keep it above that hypoglycemic state. So it's going to go up, then insulin's going to be secreted and it's going to be able to come back down again so that there's no out of control blood sugar. There's no diabetes, type 2, there's no low blood sugar hypoglycemia. So if you fuel throughout the day and you eat about every 4 hours, then more than likely your blood sugar is going to be pretty level if you include all the food groups.
So you'll be more balanced
So then
physically and mentally.
therefore you will be more, yes. If you ate a donut in the morning, there's not, right, that people eat donuts sometimes in the morning, but if you do, more than likely you're going to have a crash. You're going to have a lower blood sugar.
So, so when I came to you, I had high cholesterol,
Right.
and you gave me a diet that when I followed it, now I didn't totally understand the chemistry of it all,
Mhm.
but I followed the diet and still do. And I noticed one big thing. Before that, I was really up and down throughout the day, energy wise.
From an energy standpoint, so in other words you felt tired
Oh, yeah.
sometimes during the day.
And then I would feel energy and then tired again. But the peaks and valleys were very high and low.
And what did you contribute that to in the past before you met with me?
Oh, I think too. Oh, sleep.
That you weren't getting enough sleep.
Right. But
Okay.
in reality, about a week after I changed my diet, my energy was consistent throughout the day. In other words, my energy was balanced throughout
Right,
the day.
right. Yeah, because so what we did, from what I remember, we increased your fiber because
Right.
fiber is really, really important for helping to stabilize the blood sugar. And we increased your protein, your lean protein, but not unhealthy fats because of the cholesterol piece. So you don't want too much sugar and you don't want too much cholesterol or saturated fat. But that's what brought you back into balance. And also eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think there was a snack put in there as
Yes, there
well.
was.
And also not taking everything away, right?
Right.
People think that when they go on a healthy food plan or start or need to feel balanced, that it has to be perfect, right? If it's not like this, then oh my gosh, I'm out of balance all of a sudden like that just because I made one change. And so it's important to know it's going to ebb and flow, and keeping people in balance, I think, is all about recognizing when your body has certain symptoms that you haven't felt before, like the fatigue or like a headache or like what else? What else? What else? Fatigue, headache, low energy throughout the whole day. So not necessarily fatigue, but you just don't feel at your peak. Whereas, and so when you're in balance, you are feeling at your peak. It's possible,
You also told me I was underhydrated.
right?
Does that the people that are typically nutritionally more in balance, what does hydration mean?
So 80%, I bet, of my people are underhydrated. So I test people to see how their hydration levels are. And with hydration, it's so important for to clear toxins out of your body. It's important in a lot of cases when people are hungry, they're actually thirsty, they need the fluids. When you're not thirsty, it's usually a sign that you need more fluid.
Uh,
People look at me, they're like, but that sounds the opposite. And I was like, but it is. When you're thirsty, you are fully hydrated and you need more.
and I remember working with a runner who had very low body fat, and you told her she was overhydrated.
Right,
And that's the first time I heard of that.
right.
And she did a great job explaining it to me. But
That's great. Well, all it means is that for her, I can't remember who that was, but more than likely, she was either not eating enough.
oh, I get
That
you.
was one piece. Or some people have the body type where they run a little bit overly hydrated, right? Or they're not taking in enough electrolytes, which could have been her case. So yeah, it's everybody is unique and individual. And I think the idea is of what you're telling me or what I'm hearing you say is if you look at when you're young, that eventually as you age, you learn about your body
Mhm.
physically, mentally, and emotionally. And how do you as a individual keep that physical, mental, and emotional piece in balance? It's it's not easy,
No, it's not.
but it can be done. And I feel like people know more than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah, let me ask you a question about sometimes the information is so much
Mhm,
out there,
mhm.
and especially in your area. In my area, people self help has been around a long time, and there's some wonderful resources for that. And you could access those resources and dissect down into very small aspects of your mind and your body. But what about it can be so overwhelming with nutrition?
It's even for me. So it's really interesting. So I at one time was extremely overwhelmed because you don't know what to believe, right? It's like, what do you believe? There is so much information out there. And as a dietitian, I can look at research. And I think that it's more and more important to look at research on how does it play out? Does something like this food plan continue to last for people? Does it help them lower cholesterol? Does it help them stabilize blood sugar? Does it help them with weight? Does it help them feel better? And so research, I think, is important. I also think it's time, right? I've been doing this a long time, and so you start to see these trends, and you see the Atkins diet is now the keto diet or the carnivore diet. And it's like, that never worked before. I doubt it's going to work now, but people are going to choose what they're going to choose. The key for me is to guide them into thinking about it and saying, okay, if you do this for short term, go for it for short term if you think it's going to work for you. But I'm here to say it's probably not going to be lasting for you, right? So how can we tweak it? How can we change it?
So, from a nutritional perspective and a psychological perspective, it comes down to what I mentioned earlier: self awareness, self knowledge, and self care.
Yes.
That we are really the masters of our own learning and our own creation
Yes.
of what we do here. I know there are higher powers involved that across different cultures, but I think we are gifted with the ability to learn, to be extremely aware of our life and our surroundings, and learn new skills no matter at what age, to stay more focused, feeling in control and balanced, both with our bodies, as you talked about, and our minds, which I mentioned. So, in the next episode, what we're going to do is talk about what it looks like to be out of balance.
Mhm.
And then the third episode of this series will be um, what did, how to get back in balance.
Right.
Are there any topics or any issues that you have remaining from today that you want to make sure we talk about? Anything come to mind? Yeah.
Huh. Oh yeah, there's a lot of topics.
So we'll do another episode
So we'll do, yes,
on imbalance.
on imbalance.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, this is Mike Cerrito,
Tina Shiver.
and see you next time.